This week I don't have a nice, neat lesson. No 3 steps, no tidy takeaway. I'm just going to tell you where I am. I'm divorced, finding my feet, learning the difference between being alone and feeling lonely. Hi, I'm Lucy, and thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome to Beautifully Unfinished. It's a space where we talk honestly about the messy middle of life, and right now the messy middle is exactly where I am. After 3 decades with the man I believed I'd grow old with, you don't just stride confidently into the next chapter. You hover a lot. From the outside, I might look quite brave, composed, capable. Reality check, on the inside, I'm wobbling about a lot. Quietly, with dignity of course, but wobbling nonetheless. A bit like a duck on the water, looking as though it's gliding along quite effortlessly, while under the surface the legs are going like mad. What I didn't fully understand at first was I wasn't just grieving a marriage. I was carrying a wound, a big old bleeding open wound. And after a lot of thought, reflection, soul searching, I realized that the word that best describes wasn't one event, not even the straw that finally broke the camel's back. It was the word rejection. Rejection inside a marriage, it's brutal. But it isn't always dramatic. It often eats away slowly. There's not always shouting and door slamming. Sometimes it's just distance or indifference. Sometimes it's contempt. Sometimes it's just standing next to someone and realizing that they no longer see you. One moment that comes back to me when I think about it was I was walking down the passage towards the bedrooms. Rob was coming the other way, and Rob's not exactly a small person. And as he passed, he filled the whole space. I remember pressing my back against the wall to give him room to pass, trying to almost disappear into the wall. And I remember in that moment feeling so lost, so rejected, like I wasn't even there, I was invisible. The moment probably lasted 3 seconds, but has replayed in my mind for years, because somehow it captured something so much bigger, that feeling of being invisible, the kind of rejection that seeps in and quietly settles in places you don't notice until much later. So when I decided to dip my toe back into the dating world, I thought I'd simply be stepping into something new and exciting. But those youthful illusions of that handsome prince sweeping you off your feet was very soon put into perspective. And to be fair, it was exciting. It was actually quite flattering to be desired again. There's a whole ritual of getting ready to meet someone. So you go and you have a full hour sort of preparing, doing all the makeup, matching everything, make sure that the lip is waxed, that there's no whiskers who are giving any surprise appearances, fully aware now that the grey ones are extremely reflective in the right light. Once everything's taken care of, there's even a pit of excitement in your stomach, the nerves are on full alert. Yet the brutal truth of it, and we often hear this, is rebound relationships very rarely work. Strangely enough, that thought has become quite comforting to me, because it wasn't like failure, it was perhaps just practice rounds. Because what I was actually doing was stepping into dating with an open wound. And the few people I did meet weren't unpleasant. In fact, they were perfectly nice people. But there was something I began to notice. There was a pattern. They were emotionally unavailable. It was subtle, it was polished, reasonable, but unavailable. Looks like interest, but there's no consistency. Looks like intention, but there's no follow-through. It feels warm until it cools off without an explanation. And the truth is, it's not personal. It's simply unavailability. Full stop. And at this stage of life, that's not mysterious. It's painful and honestly quite exhausting. I don't need to make anyone a villain. But I also don't need to pretend it was healthy or okay. Because when you come out of a marriage or a long relationship where you felt unseen, even the smallest moments of distance can land somewhere very tender. There were times when I felt like an absolute fool. like a woman quietly sitting in the corner, waving her hand and saying, pick me, pick me. And when the internal audit began, oh my word, I audited myself thoroughly. Was I too much? Was I too direct? Too independent? Did I share too much? Definitely did. Was I not enough? Not exciting enough? Not interestingly enough? Not mysterious enough? Did I simply not know how to play the game? And then it escalated. Was I too old? Too set in my ways? Too menopausal? Too visible? Because when rejection hits an old wound, the mind goes hunting for evidence. It wants to fix something. If I can identify what I did wrong, I can fix it. And then I'll be safe. Then it'll be okay and things will come right. There were evenings when I genuinely wondered, is it me? Have I completely lost perspective? Because when rejection echoes an old wound, it distorts everything. You don't always know if you're actually responding to the present or if you're quietly reliving the past. And somewhere in all of that, I found myself thinking about this phrase, which we so casually use, a broken heart. In reality, the physical side, broken heart, isn't actually broken at all. It still beats, still capable of love, still willing, despite everything. But what breaks is the picture that you have in your head. It's the certainty, the happily ever after, the sitting on the stoep together, the story. And perhaps that's why it hurts so much. It's not just love ending, it's change. It's change you never asked for. It's realizing that the life you thought that was secure wasn't. Derails you, it shakes you to the core. And that's when I found myself walking as what I can only describe as a corridor of self-doubt. A corridor with many doors, you can imagine it, right? Behind each door, a rabbit hole waiting. You're too much. You're not enough. You should have known better. At your age, really? And the humbling part, I realized, I had walked this corridor before. The difference this time was that I could actually see it. I was aware, which brings me to something I used to roll my eyes at. The whole concept about like attracts like and energy attracts energy, right? We've all heard that. It sounds a bit eerie until you look at it psychologically. When you're operating from a place of needing reassurance, you often attract someone uncertain who also needs reassurance. When you're carrying rejection, you may connect with someone who is emotionally unavailable. When you're still slightly bleeding, you seem to have a very accurate radar for people who need to be fixed. Bottom line, broken souls gravitate towards broken souls. Not because they're bad, but because they recognize something familiar. And strangely, that was comforting. Because it meant I wasn't foolish. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't fundamentally unlovable. I was just raw. Life meets you where you are. And I was meeting life from a place of wanting to be chosen. And I realize now that doesn't make me weak, it just makes me human. What's interesting as you move through this journey is how things slowly become a lot clearer. I can now see that I'm in a much more stable place emotionally. I'm not so desperate, not so hopeful. I'm more patient, trusting that timing and healing have their own rhythm. Wish they'd hurry up sometimes, but they have their own rhythm. That doesn't mean I get to hide away in my comfort zone forever. At some point, I still have to go out there and meet people. But that might be a podcast for another day, because goodness knows meeting people these days has its own set of challenges. And I wouldn't say just these days, except it seems to me like it's a lot harder. But here's what I believe right now. When my heart is steadier, not hardened, just steadier, when the wound has scarred instead of bleeding, when I'm no longer scanning the room to see if I've been picked or selected, I will naturally attract something different. Not because I've mastered the universe, but because I'll be operating from a state of calm instead of hunger. And calm attracts differently. I'm not fully there yet. I still wobble, but I'm not where I was. And for now, that's enough. If you've come out of a long relationship or marriage and you look brave on the outside but feeling really lost inside, you're not foolish. You're not going mad. You're healing. You're healing in real time. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk through that corridor instead of turning back. Thank you so much for being with me here today and for listening to this episode. If it resonated in any way with you, please like, follow and subscribe. It just helps the podcast keep going, and it might reach someone who really needs to hear this message and help them navigate their messy middle. Until next time, I'll hopefully see you next week. Bye for now.